Hello, guys. Okay, so today we are covering the last section of our factoring unit, and this is factoring by grouping. And this is normally done because you have four or more terms, four terms. Okay, so it is possible to factor a polynomial with four terms by a method called grouping. Follow the steps below to factor the given polynomial. The biggest thing is what we do is you group the first two terms together and the last two terms together. You divide in half. Divide in half. So I go straight down the middle. Okay. And then what we do is we're going to factor out the GCF from each binomial. So I look at each half here. What's my GCF? My GCF here is x squared. And remember, we write the GCF and then we write what's left inside the parentheses. So I'm going to do that. X squared, and then what's left? When I do x to the third divided by x squared, that gives me x. 7x squared divided by x squared, that leaves me with plus 7. Now I'm adding all of this together. So therefore I write a plus, and then I do the same thing to this half. What's my GCF on this half? On the right half, 2. So I'm going to divide by 2. So I'm now going to have 2 outside the parentheses. And then what's left? 2x divided by 2 is x. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And what you should notice at this point is we have something that's the same. If I'm looking at this, which is the actual GCF of this expression, because x plus 7 is a common factor for each term, because actually all of this is one term, all of this is one term. So now we're going to factor the common binomial out. So I'm going to pull this x plus 7 out. So I'm going to have, and remember, we write the GCF times what's left. So I have x plus 7 because that's my GCF. And then we write what's left inside the parentheses. So what's left? The x squared plus 2. There's my answer. And now, because this is a bit different, we're going to check it. And the way you check it is you remultiply it. So I'm doing x times x squared. So I'm having x times x squared, which gives me x to the third. And then I'm doing x times 2. Which gives me 2x. And then I have 7 times x squared, which gives me 7x squared. And then I have 7 times 2, which is 14. Now, this is not in correct order, but I can rewrite it. So it's going to be x to the third plus 7x squared plus 2x plus 14. And this is in correct standard form. And what you should notice is these are the exact same. So I've worked this correctly. This is my correct answer. All right, now let's work another example, and we'll go a little bit faster with this one. Excuse me. All right, so divide in half. So my GCF for the first half is going to be x squared. So then I'm going to have x squared on the outside, and then what's left? X plus 4. Now I'm going to do the second half, which is 8 is my GCF. So I have plus 8. Oh, and notice I'm adding everything, so it's a plus, okay? And even if I have subtractions in here somewhere, it's still, I can rewrite it all as a addition problem. So I divide out and I'm left with x plus 4. These are the same. So that's my GCF. So I have x plus 4 times x squared plus 8. There's my final answer. All right, let's look at number 6 real quick. The reason I'm picking this is because when I do down the middle, there's a minus right there. But remember, I can rewrite this as v to the third minus v squared plus negative 3v plus 3, if that helps you. So you know you're always adding. All right, so let's work this. Divide down the half. So this is v squared. So I have v squared, and then I've got v. Oh, that's just going to be minus 1 because v squared divided by v squared is 1. Plus, now what's my GCF here? I'm actually going to pull out I want this to be the same. So I'm going to pull out a -1 because if I divide by a -1, then negative 3v divided by -1 is going to give me not a -3 and not a -1 and -3 because they both have a 3. So I'm going to divide out a -3 because I want to end up with v minus 1 when I divide. So negative 3v divided by -3 gives me a positive v, which is the same as this over here. 3 divided by -3 gives me a -1, which is the same as the -1 right here. So now I have the same inside the parentheses. So you've got to remember that's what you're trying to do when you are figuring out what your GCF is. You want to get what's left inside here to be the same. So my final answer is v squared plus, or actually you could say, because that's a -3, because v squared plus -3 times v minus 1, or v squared minus 3 times v minus 1. This is the way you will more than likely see it written. Okay, next page. Looking at number, let's look at number 8. Okay, so I'm dividing down the middle. It's my GCF for that first half. It's a 2, but then it's also y to the third. And then on this side, it's a -7. Is what I think I'm going to pull out. So, because you normally kind of take the first sign there, we'll go with. So we have 2y to the third, and then I'm left with y minus 3. And then when I divide here and I take out that -7, I end up with y minus 3. Notice they're the same. Again, if you've got questions, make sure that you ask. So I have 2y to the third minus 7 times y minus 3. And this is all in parentheses. This is all in parentheses. And here is my final answer. Excuse me. Okay, jumping down to number 14, sorry. 14. So it's still divide in half. What I gotta look at is, oh, wait a minute. This has 2 variables in here. So I look at the numbers. So I've got a 4, but I've also got 2 variables. So my GCF here is 4RS. So I have 4RS, and then what's left is going to be R minus 2. And then I'm over here, I'm going to factor out a -3. So I have minus 3, open parentheses, R minus 2. Because -3R divided by -3 is R. 6 divided by -3 is a -2. And we end up having the same thing in the parentheses. So my GCF, so I'm going to have 4RS minus 3 times R minus 2 as my final answer. All right. Looking at these, this is where you've got to remember, you always got to look for, well, no, here we're having to rearrange the terms to be able to group them because they're not always written in the best order. Okay. So when I'm looking at this, if I rearrange this and I write it in standard form, possibly it'll work, or I'm going to look at, but also if I look at this, but wait a minute, I want all my X's together and my Y's together. Okay, so I'm going to put, I'm going to rewrite this to be x squared plus 5x plus 2xy minus 10y. And my whole purpose behind that is because I want my x's together and my y's together. That's the purpose behind that. And now my GCF. On the left, it's x. So I have x, open parentheses, x plus 5, close parentheses. On the right-hand side, my GCF is 2y. Oh, ooh, that's a negative x squared. When I brought it over, I didn't put it as a negative. That's a big boo-boo. You have to remember that's a negative. So when I'm factoring out here, I'm going to factor out my GCF is going to be a negative x. And yeah, I'm going to factor out a GCF of a negative x because that's the negative first. So when I do that, I'm factoring out a negative x. So that's going to make this become a negative 5, a minus 5, x minus 5. Okay, on the left, my GCF is 2y, so I have plus 2y. And then I'm left with x minus 5 inside the parentheses, which is what it's supposed to be. These are the same, because remember the goal is I've got to get what's the same inside those parentheses. So I'm now going to have negative x plus 2y times x minus 5. Okay, last example. All right, again, I want to group them together. So I'm going to put u squared up. That's a negative u. I almost did it again. Negative u squared minus u plus uv plus v. And now we split it up. First half, GCF is u, so I have u, open parentheses. I'm going to factor out a negative u. Negative u, so then I'm going to have u plus 1. And then on the right-hand side, I'm factoring out a v, so I have plus v. And then I'm left with u plus 1 when I do uv divided by v and v divided by v. Oh, look, I got the same inside the parentheses. So I have negative u plus v in the first set of parentheses, u plus 1 in the second set of parentheses. Your assignment is to finish the notes in the classwork homework. Remember, if you've got questions, make sure that you ask or you rewind and rewatch the video. Have a great day. Bye.